During the Great Crusade, when the Emperor of Mankind and his Primarchs were uniting the scattered human domains all across the galaxy, each of his sons controlled a powerful expeditionary force that operated independently from one another, but when a worthy foe presented itself against the Imperium, the Primarchs would call upon each other for aid. These joint military campaigns didn't always work out as smoothly as expected. Each Primarch and their legions had very different methods of waging war, and at times these differences created tension that would boil over into violence amongst each other. Such was the case when the Primarch Leman-Russ and his Space Wolves Legion fought alongside the Primarch Magnus the Red and his Thousand Sons Legion. But before we get into that story, allow me to welcome you guys back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. If you're new to the channel, let me introduce myself. I am your host Gersh1, your guide through this grim, dark universe. For the entire month of January, I am going over the lore of the Space Marines, so if you guys have any questions or suggestions for videos, please let me know what they are in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoy this faction-focused style of lore videos, please smash the like button. It tells YouTube that you want to see more 40K content, and it helps these videos reach a wider audience. With all that said, let's get into 40 facts and lore on the Space Wolves versus the Thousand Sons. The Arc-Reach Cluster had been discovered by the Wordbearers Legion's 47th Expeditionary Fleet. It was a group of binary stars occupied by a number of belligerent planetary empires that rejected the Imperium's offer to become part of the Emperor's growing domain. When negotiations broke down between Imperial representatives and the Phoenix Court, a representative body of 6 systems of the Arc-Reach Cluster, hostility commenced. The first 4 systems easily fell to the combined efforts of the Space Wolves and the Wordbearers. On one hand, the Space Wolves waged a genocidal campaign that laid waste to the stubborn worlds, while on the other hand, the Wordbearers' Ashen Circle destroyed much of the culture of the Arc-Reach Cluster, hunting down works of false doctrines and those who pervaded, and consigning both to destruction and eradicating flame. The 2 legions continued the prosecution of this campaign for the next 2 years until only 2 worlds still resisted Imperial efforts. This was thanks in no small part to the Avenians, who lived in silver towers atop the tallest mountain peaks of the Arc-Reach Secundas, which was known to the local inhabitants as Heliosa. It was soon decided that in order to ensure the successful compliance of this sector, a great Imperial presence must be felt. To this end, Leman-Russ decided that he would send for assistance from the Thousand Sons in the nearby Agora system to help bring the 6th and final world Shrike into Imperial compliance. When the Legion finally arrived, they found themselves deployed at a more frantic war pace than what they were accustomed to. The Space Wolves' compliance operations were conducted swiftly, and over the next 6 months, the Fenrisians continued to spearhead the efforts on Shrike. The Imperial ground forces found themselves being viciously attacked by varied and hostile avian creatures, which forced the Imperials to modify their weapons for point defense in order to clear the skies around them. These vicious avians were known by the local inhabitants as snow shrikes, razor-beaked birds, that made short work of Imperial forces during multiple assaults. Despite the punishing pace of the campaign, the Thousand Sons helped play an instrumental role in the final defeat over the Avenians when they took the objective named Raven's Eyrie 93. This final battle was won in a matter of hours, with only a fraction of casualties incurred by the Imperial forces. The Avenian surviving leaders and military forces withdrew and retreated to their capital world of Heliosa. With the precognitive abilities of the Thousand Sons Corvidae cult members, they were able to determine the location of a hidden enemy force, whom the Space Wolves savagely killed while the Wordbearers burned their fortresses with putrefying flames. Even after achieving victory, tension between the Space Wolves and the Thousand Sons continued to boil over until it finally came to a head during the battle for Phoenix Crag, Shrike's capital city. The Crimson King had been disgusted by what he saw as the wanton destruction and near genocide committed by the Space Wolves of the planet's population. The Space Wolves pointed out to their cousin Legion that the Avenians were an unrepentant and degenerate society who refused to accept the Imperial truth. Soon tensions flared, and several of the Space Wolves charged the Thousand Sons. The warriors of the 15th Legion utilized their deadly psychic abilities and slew several Fenrisian wolves, as well as disabling the bodies of the Space Wolves themselves. In the midst of the fighting, disaster struck in the form of one of the Thousand Sons, a Pavoni cult member known as Hastur, when he succumbed to the dreaded flesh change after overexerting his psychic powers. This caused his body to spontaneously mutate uncontrollably, which caused panic within the ranks of the Thousand Sons and resulted in further mutations among some of its members. A surging wave of power erupted as Magnus the Red came forth and stepped towards the hideously transformed creature, who seemed to reach out to Magnus as though to embrace him, and the Primarch opened his arm to receive him with forgiveness and mercy. Suddenly, a thunderous bang sounded, and the mutated Space Marine's body exploded as a single explosive round detonated within his chest. Silence suddenly covered the entire area as a heavy tink sound of the monstrous expended brass casing struck the ground. It was the Wolf King himself who had ended Hastur's suffering. The Wolf King walked calmly towards his brother Primarch as both sides readied themselves to make war upon one another. Total war between the two legions seemed imminent. Fortunately, disaster was just barely averted when Primarch Lorgar showed up and interposed himself between his brothers. He managed to calm the tense situation. Magnus refused to stand by as the wolves ravaged Heliosa, but Russ responded that this world was discovered by his legion and therefore it was his to do what he saw fit. The people of this world had chosen to fight the Imperium and therefore had chosen death. As the Wolf King departed, he returned to face Magnus once more and swore a bloody oath against the Crimson King, promising that one day soon there would be a reckoning between both of them. The Wolf King then slashed his blade across his palm and let his blood spill to the ground. He then threw his head back and howled, and his warriors added their voices to their master's cry, a lament for the dead and a grim warning of things to come. And that's the lore to the Thousand Suns versus the Space Wolves, or at least the initial conflict. If you guys check out our 40 facts and lore on Leman Russ versus Magnus, you'll see like the next big conflict that happens between the two. There's backs that are broken, and it's pretty crazy. If you guys have any suggestions for any other topics of Space Marine lore that you guys would like me to cover, please let me know what they are in the comment section below. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the comment section and tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first, and then